and this is another episode of Rosie Makes. We hope that you joined us earlier in the week for Snack Time Science, where we explored the science of craters on the moon. And if you caught us on Wednesday, you would have gotten to read the awesome book about Margaret Hamilton and her support of the Apollo 11 missions. And last year actually was the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11, which is pretty cool. So if you got to go down on the National Mall, Veronica and I went late at night. We took a nap and then we got up at midnight, and we watched the rocket simulated on the National Monument, and it was pretty amazing. But we're gonna dive even more into moon science today, but instead of talking about craters, we're gonna talk about something called the phases of the moon. Okay, so girls, what's the best time to see the moon? At night. Can you see it during the daytime?
No. Wait, actually sometimes in the morning, because sometimes in the morning, the moon's still up. I see it.
Yeah, you can. So you can see the moon sometimes, but it's harder to see, right? Because when we have the shadows of night, when the Earth is rotating different ways, it's easier to see. So we're gonna explore that a little bit more, okay? Does this moon look the same every night?
No. But it takes like a few, some days it looks the same and then the other days. But some days you can't see it at all.
Some days you can't see it at all.
And that's called a new moon.
That's called a new moon. Does the moon change every night in the sky?
Well, actually, I looked up at the night sky through my window, and twice a day I saw it in a crescent, but then I also saw it in a new moon the next day.
Okay, so crescent, new moon. Gracie, have you heard those terms before?
Oh, at my school, I had a project that you could make a moon chart, and I did, but I took it down.
Okay, so we are gonna make a moon chart today, okay, a phases of the moon chart, but we're gonna do it with Oreo cookies.
Yay!
Which is gonna be pretty fun. But those moon charts, right, and the fact that you see a crescent or you see a new moon or you see a half moon, okay, those are called the phases of the moon, okay? The moon rotates around the Earth, it orbits the Earth, right, it moves in a circle. Hello, Missy. And then the Earth, right, orbits the sun, right? So you got two things that are moving and orbiting. And the way that we see the moon, yeah, is the reflection of the sun off of the moon that we can see on Earth. A lot of people think that we only see the moon when the Earth is in the way of the moon, but that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing the sun's reflection off of the moon at different stages of its orbit, okay? And there are 8 key phases of the moon that we see in the night sky, and they cycle at different times during the month. So Gracie, do you have one of these in front of you? Okay. So this is our phases of the moon chart. Woo! Grace fell on her face. Hold on, Grace. So this is our phases of the moon chart that you can see there, right? And depending on different times of the month, when the moon is in different parts of its orbit and the Earth is in different parts of its orbit, we see different reflections from the moon. The inner circle right here actually is if you looked just down, right? If you looked down on Earth and the moon would always be in shadow, right, or on the Earth. It would always look the same for the most part. But because we're looking out from Earth, that's why we're able to see the different phases as they move, okay? So we have first quarter, waxing crescent, new moon, waning crescent, last quarter, waning gibbous, full moon, and waxing gibbous. So first we're gonna try to get familiar with these terms and what these different shapes look like. Because if you get to learn these terms and see the shapes, you can look at the moon on different nights and chart the phases of the moon and know where the moon is in the sky and what the next phase is gonna come up. So the fun way to do this, you can do it 2 ways. You can draw circles and you can color in the different phases of the moon, or if you're lucky ducks like Veronica and Grace, whose mom happened to score Oreos before this, you get to make the phases of the moon using Oreos.
And at the end you can eat them.
And at the end you can eat them. So how do you make the phases of the moon with Oreos, girls? What do you think we need to do? Okay, so here, we could probably use the first part of my Oreo song to do that, do you think?
Yeah.
All right, so do you know exactly how to eat an Oreo? Well, to do it, you unscrew it very fast, because the kid will eat the middle of an Oreo first and save the chocolate cookie outside for last. Instead of eating the middle right now, we're gonna get rid of that top chocolate cookie, Yeah, and we're gonna just keep, Grace, like this, the piece that has the cream on it. It's a beautiful job. It looks great, Grace.
Can I try?
Okay, yep, I want you to take the tops off of all 8 of your Oreos. That's step 1. All right, so now you're either gonna have 8 blank circles drawn on a paper plate, or you're gonna have 8 Oreo cookies that have their tops off and just cream, okay? Now, Grace, what do you have? Do you have a stick or do you have a butter knife? What do you have, baby? To scrape. All right, so we're gonna look, we're gonna look at the phases of our moon.
I have 8.
Okay, now what you're gonna go through is you're gonna take your chart and you're gonna start with the first quarter at the very top, and you're gonna scrape the cream off that you don't need so that you can make your cookies look like the different phases of the moon. Okay, there's your chart, bud. Okay, so after our fast forward magic and some good concentration skills and a little bit of cheeky eating of the cream, the girls have made the phases of the moon, right, that reflect the phases of the moon chart, right? So our first quarter is half of the moon, right, roughly. and then we move on to our waxing crescent, which looks like the thumbnail or a piece of a fingernail, right? Our full moon, that big, a new moon, which is when we can't see it, right? Our waxing crescent, which is the fingernail the other way around. Another half of the moon, the other last quarter. A waning gibbous, which, I don't know, what do we think the waning gibbous looks like when we look at it in the moon?
The waning gibbous? Well, I think it looks like the right part of a circle.
Okay, like the side of a circle coming in. I'll take it. We've got the full moon, right, which is the whole moon. And then we have the waxing gibbous, right? And then we go right back into the same cycle. And that cycle repeats and repeats and repeats, right? In congruence with the orbit of the moon. So, with that, girls, do you think that the moon looks the same size as the sun in the sky?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, get this. The sun is actually 400 times bigger than the moon. So I just moved Gracie right by the camera so she could see this too. Those look the same size.
No. That's the sun and that's the moon.
Do they look the same size now? In your camera?
Yes.
Size.
Yes.
So what happens when we move them closer?
No.
No, right? The blue one is a lot smaller than the red one. But why did they look like they were the same size when I first showed them to you in the camera? When I first did this, why do they look the same size? It's perspective, okay? So the moon is smaller, but it's a lot closer to Earth. Whereas the sun is really, really big, but it's a lot further away, right? So I can even make this circle look smaller than this circle. See? It's all about perspective. So in the sun, in the sky to us, they look about the same size because of the distance of how far away the sun is compared to the moon to the Earth. But in actuality, the moon is a lot smaller than the sun. All right, so we've learned about the phases of the moon, and here's a really fun project that you guys can also do at home. So you can look at making the phases of the moon actually happen, where you can represent Earth, and you can make a moon, and then you need a lamp to make the sun. I'm gonna show you a video at the end of this of how it all works, but in order to get started, we need to make a little moon, okay? So, how are we gonna make a little moon? Well, we need a couple of ingredients that are pretty easy. You need a piece of tin foil. You need a straw or a stick or a dowel.
What's a dowel?
It's just like a stick. And then you need a coffee filter, okay, to make it white. So the first thing I want you to do, girls, is I want you to take your tin foil and I want you to wad it up like a ball. You got a ball? All right, very good. Nice and tight. All right, and then you're gonna put your ball on your stick, roughly, okay? Like that. Hold that, V. And then you're gonna take your coffee filter and you're gonna put it over your ball and your stick. Yeah? And then you're gonna, we need one more ingredient that I forgot to tell you about. You're gonna take your tape and you're gonna wrap the tape around the bottom of the stick so that you have your own little moon. Cool?
Yeah.
So, if you have an easier way to do that at home, cool. In our Rosie Orbiters project, we actually make models of these, but they involve bunches of styrofoam and especially taped dowels and like glued dowels and all kinds of stuff, which we can show you at a different time. But this one, you can pretty easily make at home. You are going to go into a dark room, which we're gonna cut to in just a second. You're gonna have one really focused light, so you probably wanna take the lampshade off of a lamp and put maybe some paper around it to focus it in. And then you're gonna be the earth, and this is gonna be your moon. You can do it with two people too, so somebody can be the earth and somebody can be the moon. And as you move, as the earth rotates, right? And as the moon rotates, and as it goes into different parts of the sun, the shadow on your moon is gonna change, and you'll be able to see the phases of the moon in your own house. So to set this up, you're gonna take, this is our lamp. It's a dark corner of the upstairs landing. I took a piece of purple construction paper and I just made a little tube to filter my light in a particular direction. And I slipped it over the light bulb so that my light was focused one way, just my sun, right? Bit of a dark background so that you can kind of actually see the levels of the shadow. And then my phone is serving as the earth, to the earth's perspective. And then we have the moon that is reflecting the sun's light. And as the earth and the moon orbit, you can see the shadow, right? So there's about a quarter moon. And then as it comes over here, when the moon is directly in front of the sun, we have a new moon, right? Awesome. These two girls are dying to tell you their moon facts.
So these little moons are not just the only moons. Actually, Mars has its own moon, and Jupiter has its own 4 moons.
Wow! Yeah, so there's moons all over our solar system.
For Mars.
Are there 5 moons on Mars?
I just said there is a moon on Mars.
There's 5.
I know.
Cool. So there's lots of moons all over the solar system. But the moon doesn't actually make its own light. The moon is just reflecting the light of the sun, because the moon's just a big rock. We talked about that in Snack Time Science.
Your brownie thing.
Yeah, it's rocky, right? Just like the brownies, right? But it's not, it doesn't produce light, right? It reflects light. So it's reflecting the light of the sun, and that depending on where the moon is in its orbit, and where it is not only in its orbit, but its orbit around the earth, the light is gonna reflect off the moon in different ways and make different phases of the moon, okay? So in the comments, there's gonna be a couple of different things. There's your own moon chart, right? So you can draw your phases of the moon, or you can recreate them with Oreos if you have them on hand. There's also gonna be a moon chart. So if you're up late enough when the sun goes down, or if you can peer into the sky when the sun is up, you can chart the different phases, the different parts of the moon that we're seeing from that reflection on different days of the month, right? And you can see how many cycles it goes through, and technically people do it through the whole year, and it's already drafted, so you can do some research there. But you'll see both of those items in the comments. So share your moon creations with us. There'll be instructions to how to make your own little moon at home, and do a bunch of different experiments. As the girls say, eat the Oreos if you happen to have them. Okay, so we will see you guys next week for another series of content, from Snack Time Science to Rosie Reads to Rosie Makes. We hope that you're enjoying everything. Share your project with us. We'd love to see them. And in the meantime, keep those big old muscles up, and remember that if you try hard enough, we can all
Do it.
We can do it!